The puck is about to drop on your favorite all-Canadian hockey podcast. Without further ado, here are your co-hosts, Mick and Grant. Enjoy Canada Puck.
Hey guys, welcome to the Canada Puck Podcast, your weekly recap of what's going on in the world of hockey, specifically in Canada, just as the name implies. I'm your co-host, Mick. You can find me on Twitter at ProfitMick, and I'm joined every episode by the lovely guy above me,
Grant, on Twitter at Fourthline Sports. It's kind of a, funny spring. This is kind of when we get into the playoff push, and we got NCAA basketball on the go. Basketball's getting into the playoff push, but right now, with the NHL being mid-regular season, NBA's mid-regular season, feels like I can focus all my attention on March Madness, and man, what a tournament to get to look more closely into. Have you been watching any of the games?
I have, yeah. Yesterday I kind of just fell into a hole when I got home from work, and it was, 3-4 hours kind of thing, even flipping in between the hockey games later on, right? Kind of anytime there was a break, interruption, commercial, I was flipping back to the basketball games. It's good, it's interesting. I kind of assumed it was either going to be, because COVID seemed kind of chalky. Like, if you look back at the last champions, there was no real upset. So I figured the tournament was going to be either, super chalky or just, super chaotic. And I think we're getting that super chaos. It's nice.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I think one thing, too, did you see the Oregon VCU game?
No.
I know for a fact you didn't because it was actually canceled. Guess what the final score was? They had canceled it because VCU had a few positive tests. You'd expect some sort of all right, maybe basketball score, but guess what the final score was?
I saw it posted as 1-0.
It is 1-0. How great is that? As you know what? Everybody hates COVID. I love COVID. They gave us a 1-0 basketball score, and we're never going to see it again. Ever.
No, not at all. Yeah, and it's one of those things, it was the Friday night series of games I was kind of watching, and it's just, it goes to show. I kind of sometimes look at basketball players, and I'm like, basketball's so easy. It's just you shoot a little ball into a net. How hard could that be? But you think the consistency that a guy like a Steph Curry, those elite players do, where it's just automatic shooting from 30 feet away, versus you watch these college kids who are some of the best in the world, and they're just awful, just absolute awful. It's just literally a rock fight, right? They're just throwing it, and you're like, what the hell? So it goes to show just that elite level of skill that exists in the world. It's good stuff.
Yeah. You get 53-52 basketball game at the end of 40 minutes. You guys probably could have did a little better here.
Yeah. Well, and it's those other intangibles, right? You see the guy that's this guy tries really hard on every play, and that's his big credit, right? And literally he's just running around, and he's just creating lots of energy, and just, I don't know, it's uplifting, right? The little guy, if you try hard, it pays off. I mean, not really. You end up at, what's this stupid, Oral Roberts. Best school name.
Okay, so low key, NCAA has a sex problem. We talk about Oral State or Moorhead State, or what was it, Lancers, the Longwood Lancers. We're not getting so subtle with some of these names here, guys.
No, not at all. So, yeah, it's good. Randomly, though, too, no, I'll leave that point. It's fine. Anyways, hockey's fun. And Grant, if it obviously sounds like you didn't pay a lot of attention to hockey in the last week, so good job. Yeah, I'm excited, because that's kind of uh-oh, hockey.
Well, yeah, our OG guests will know that when we started this podcast, we actually did a hockey, so Canada Puck, what you see is what you got at 5 years ago, but we also did a sports recap podcast where we kind of alternated. I'm definitely falling into the other sports right now. I know that hockey's great. I love hockey, but man, baseball starts in 10 days. Then we got March Madness on the go.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's really hard to focus.
I don't want to tease you or anything, but I think I've done 4 or 5 MLB mock drafts this week on my phone random. I'm I'm bored. I'll get into it, and I'm I got the itch. Oh no.
Yeah, my fantasy baseball draft's coming up tomorrow. My keepers. Oh my god, my keepers in this league. So 2 years ago, obviously 2020 didn't happen. So I guess our fantasy baseball pool didn't happen. But in 2019, I traded Fernando Tatis Jr. for Patrick Corbin straight up. So now, and I had Corey Seager too. So now I've got Corey Seager and Fernando Tatis at short. I got Belly and Rizzo, Zach Greinke, and I'm missing one other guy. Oh, DJ LeMahieu is the other guy I ended up going with. And I'm just like, I got like a half chub thinking about these keepers I got. So, oh man, I'm excited.
Sweet. Now, I mean, with that, I've also in years past done the baseball drafts, and then like I fall off after like a month. I just really like drafting. That's my favorite thing. I just like doing drafts. Like I do a basketball draft, hockey draft, build the team, and then I don't really want to go anywhere with it. So,
I'm just gonna throw a little personal tidbit out. So Mick loves fantasy sports so much that his wife actually acknowledged it in her wedding vows. So that should open the curtain a little bit on Mick and the enthusiasm with which he plays fantasy sports.
Drafts fantasy. I start really hot, and then sometimes I fall off. I'm like, I just don't care anymore. It's the finishing in those other ones. Yeah. All right. Well, now that we've got this nice weather, obviously rinks are melting, hockey's melting, but we'll try and keep it alive. Maybe we'll talk some headlines. What's going on? Let's go to the standings.
Where are we starting? Are we starting
in the East? Apparently we're scrolling down. So at NHL.com, stats are courtesy of NHL.com. They kind of just randomly like jump around. So this week we're starting with Discover Central. Discover Central, you say.
So I can't tell you anything that did happen, but I can tell you today we got a huge matchup. Florida versus Tampa. Mm-hmm. And it was a little curious. So Tampa's on the second night of a back-to-back. They get Chicago last night. Like, no disrespect to Chicago, but they're not in the same league as Florida this year. And they started Vasilevsky yesterday. So now they're starting McElhinney today against basically their biggest competition in the division. Seems a little, like that decision-making just seems a little fucky to me. I'm not sure if there's something that's going on behind the scenes we don't know about, but why would you start Vasilevsky against the Hawks when you know you got the Panthers the next day on the second night of the back-to-back?
I don't know. Are they going for kind of like the built-in excuse? They need kind of like to go 1-1 in theory. So you figure you kind of throw the big guns out against the lesser competition, and then hopefully someone else steps up over kind of the Panthers?
That's like, I maybe that's part of the rationale. Right. When I think about this, though, I just think, like, are they slow playing this, or are they trying to, like, hold some of their cards a little closer to the chest as we get towards the playoffs? Like, I don't know. Just seems curious decision-making to me.
Yeah. No, hey. I mean, Galaxy. That's like a Galaxy brain coaching thought. Yeah, I got nothing. I know Dallas screwed me at some. I had, like, a 3 or 4 team parlay, and, like, Dallas against Detroit was the anchor of it, and they lost 4-3, and I was like, God damn it. But on the plus side, they bounced back last night, 3-0. So, again, I was like banking on that one. So, yeah.
I'm happy that they eventually paid off for you. Dallas has been some kind of bad this year, like from all perspectives. Like no, like advanced metrics aren't working in their favor, outcomes aren't going their way. But did you know Jonathan Bernier, Detroit Red Wings, I would say primary goalie at this point, he is actually above 500 on the season. Did you know that? That just fucking made my head explode when I looked into this. I was like, man, 8-6 Jonathan Bernier.
Huh. Well, I mean, they're 10, and where are the other 12 losses coming from? Is Howard around?
Yeah, the goalie's name is escaping me right now. But the part that really made my brain hurt is now that I'm looking at his stats right here, his goals saved above average is actually a positive number. So what that means is that he's actually, metrics-wise, better than average, and he's stopping more goals than we would expect him to. So, and that's kind of, like, the guy's 32. He hasn't been great for many years, and all of a sudden now we get, like, good Jonathan Bernier? Man.
Great.
I might get a Bernier jersey.
Good job, Jonathan Bernier. Jonathan Bernier. How about the Mass Mutual East? Ooh, anything exciting going on there?
I don't know how exciting COVID is. Well, I guess I just got excited about it earlier, so depends where you fall in the spectrum.
I mean, probably the most exciting thing is, the Buffalo Sabres games have been postponed because of COVID, so they're not winning. They weren't going to win, but at least now they have an excuse why they're not winning, right? So
the Buffalo Sabres season mercifully comes to an end. It's going to be team protocols to just go cough on everybody. Guys, we really don't want to finish the season.
Well, it's something at this point, right? Like 6 wins. I know Grant can't see it, but like you in YouTube land, look at this number I'm circling. 6 wins. I think they have something as a team. They've scored 61 goals for. Connor McDavid has 60 points on the season. That's the real race, right? Connor McDavid versus the Buffalo Sabres.
Maybe we should turn that into something.
Yeah, yikes. Other than that, the Rangers are playing pretty good hockey. They beat up the Bruins last week. They kind of whooped the Flyers. I don't know if we're going to see a trend there, but maybe something to keep an eye on. Like the Rangers brand of hockey might be turning around a little bit.
So if we want to talk about the exact opposite of that, we have to talk about the Washington Capitals. So Washington has been on a god-awful run. And you look at the record, I think they're like 6-1-1 over the last 8. Like, they've just been winning hockey games. But they have managed, and I'm not even shitting you, like 5 high-danger chances per game. Like, just some god-awful number. I'm like, how? Like, how are we at this point where the Capitals can... And, like, they get 5 of these chances, and they score on 3 of them somehow. Probably thanks to Alex Ovechkin. Like, I just, like... They are due to spiral, and, like, they are going to spiral hard.
All right. So the Flyers about 11 points back, 2 games in hand. Well, we'll see. They're probably playoff bound at this point, but we'll see if Grant. There's some stiff competition behind you guys, so see what happens. Honda West. What's going on in the Honda West? The worst division. No one cares.
I honestly feel bad for the Sharks at this point. The Sabres, I don't care. Like, the Sabres deserve what they get. You have Eichel, you have Hall. Like, the 2 most, I was going to say hateable. Hateable is a strong word, but despisable, does that soften the blow a little bit?
Yeah,
like,
so.
the 2 most despisable players in the entire league. But the Sharks are likable. I like them. They got Kevin LeBlanc, Devin Dubnyk, like, Erik Karlsson. Like, they got, like, some friendly faces, guys who, you'd like to have a beer with. And to see how bad they are, just like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Or San Jose.
Yeah. I know I was going down the cap-friendly route the other day, and it's between Burns, Vlasic, Carlson on the back end, and then they've got Couture and Evander Kane up front. You're looking at something like almost like $30-something million for 5 players. Doesn't seem like a winning formula long term, right? So we're not talking like it expires soon. Like these are like long-term deals, so that's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. I don't even think there's a team they could move them to with a flat cap. Like, who's going to take that salary? Like, I'm definitely not a contender. Like, maybe you pawn them off on Seattle. One of those, anyways.
I mean, yeah, like that's what I mean. Like, yeah, like if you're going to get rid of Carlson in the first, maybe Seattle takes that on, kind of thing. Thinking like, he's like a stalwart defenseman kind of thing. Gives us like a kind of face of a franchise for a little while. The great used to be great, but I don't know, nothing super special. Poor Honda West, just so stupid. Knights are playing good hockey too, right? There's something that they're hit your horse to if you're looking at kind of team on the upwards trajectory. They're doing all right.
Them and the Avalanche, and the Avalanche are doing it in a way that I didn't expect them to. They're playing good defensive hockey right now. I don't know if they're just like getting into playoff mode early or if this is their new system, the new structure, but they aren't the run and gun team that I would expect them to be. And that I think, and like, that's not to say that they're not opportunistic. Like, they still obviously create chances, but they definitely don't turn it into a track meet like I thought they would. So, like, I don't know, man. Colorado, keep your eye on them in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Cool, y'all. And then finally, to the best division in all of sports. We got the Scotia North division. I mean, on the plus side, it kind of feels like, on the plus side of COVID is based on just the way that like the vaccine rollout is going in Canada and how terrible the government is kind of rolling it out. There's a chance we get the Scotia division for like one more year next year, just because of how incompetent everyone is. So, we love it now. Maybe it'll stick around in our lives for a little bit.
That's a silver lining. I don't know if it's kind of give and take. I like watching Canadian teams play against each other, but I also kind of like traveling. So I don't know.
Well,
I'm not sold on this North Division for another year. Stop trying to poison my mind.
All right. Well, I mean, maybe there'd be some travel or something like that, but they'd have to like travel for like longer periods of time. I'm not sure. Anyways, starting at the bottom though, we get to talk about the cool Ottawa Senators. Since we last spoke, they went 1-0-2, no losses. That's pretty good. 8 goals for and 9 goals against. Good old Ottawa.
Yeah, they're in the middle of a 6-game homestand. They beat Toronto on night 1. They kind of blew it a little bit against the Canucks in the next 2. Yeah. They got the Flames. Like, these aren't easy games, but these are the games where they're going to be most competitive. And especially against this new Calgary team where they've kind of improved offensive structure. I need these points, I guess is what I'm saying, because I have them over 43.5 in real life, over 45.5 on the podcast. So when I see that they're losing in overtime and letting in third period goals, kind of upsets me a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair. And they're having a bit of struggles. Like, they were playing almost positive hockey, right? We kind of looked at the Calder race last week, and they've got a couple of the contenders. Again, we're like, if you were going forward in the future and you had this kind of young core, it seems positive, but I think at this point they're kind of hit with goalies. They had that goalie that beat the Leafs. He's probably done for the season with an injury that he acquired this week. And then Matt Murray's kind of day-to-day. So I don't know what's going on with the Ottawa Senators. I think they also lost a goalie on waivers at some point. Wasn't it like Anton Forsberg? Is that right?
That poor Anton Forsberg guy's been all over the place because he keeps getting picked up. Yeah. But yeah, Joey Decourt is a huge loss and so likable. Did you see his post-game interview? I think it was a week ago. I think it was on the Sunday game.
When they beat... No, for some reason I went into like a dark spiral and don't really remember anything after that, so...
Yeah, it was against the Leafs after they beat the Leafs on Sunday. And like, you could see he was getting choked up and I don't know, man. I was hoping this is going to be the bright spot for the Sens this year. Then he had to go in.
Oh, well, that's like normally we just shit on the Senators, and like at this point, I'm saying like there's positives. Like they have some good young talent, and like again, if they have a goalie you can get behind, you're like, okay, I can almost like maybe just not shit on them all the time. And then the universe takes those things away from us. So I think the universe wants us to be kind of antagonistic towards the Sens. So sorry, guys.
All right. Yeah. Message received.
I guess we don't have to change our stripes. After all, that's good. We move up the standings, though. We get to the awesome, the great, the truculent Calgary Flames. They went 3-2 this week, 14 goals for, 17 goals against.
It was just that one game against the Leafs that was really their undoing. What was it, 7-2? 7-3?
No, it was the Oilers. There was like a 7-3 Oilers game, right?
Was it the Oilers?
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. It was the Oilers. Yeah. That's right. On Saturday night. Yeah, what a, like, could you imagine the 3 words that Daryl Sutter would have used to, like, get his team motivated after that loss? Like, skate.
Yeah. I don't get it. It's okay. Again, if we kind of live in Daryl Sutterland right now. If you listen or talk to anyone who's a Flames fan, they're all abuzz about Daryl Sutter. He's kind of got them going in the right direction. Although the last 2 games against the Leafs, I saw a lot of Milan Lucic, which is concerning. And it should be concerning for Calgary fans that Daryl Sutter is kind of strapping his reins to Lucic and expecting something to happen. I think if that's kind of your... Like, if he's making a presence on the ice, you probably should get comfortable in that 6th spot in the division, right?
Isn't that the most Daryl Sutter thing to do, though? Like,
oh yeah,
I need a guy who is more defensive and slower, but also isn't going to get beat or lose the puck.
Well, was he with the Kings when Sutter won the cup with the Kings the one year? He might have been on that second cup run, the second one that they had. So, like, I almost feel like it's just one of those things where he's like buddy, and he's like, oh, I trust you in these situations. Go out there and make something happen. But maybe he hasn't watched hockey in the last decade.
Oh, good. We got Milan Lucic. We'll be fine, guys.
Whew, we did it.
Yeah, it very well could be. I know that he got traded there for a cup run, or not a cup run, a playoff push, but I think he ended up signing after that too. Like, I think Milan Lucic played a season and the end of one with the Kings. Okay. Let me look into this now. It's going to bother me.
All right. Anything else with the Flames that doesn't involve the Leafs that I got? No, that's kind of it, right? They're playing middling hockey. They're in it, though, right? If you kind of look between them, Montreal and Vancouver, which we'll talk about next, it's about 4 points. They're kind of right tied in the middle there. They've got some points at hand on Vancouver, so in theory they could overpass them. It's going to be competitive and stay with it. The problem is, because we're talking of the 6th of 7 teams and they all have a chance at the postseason, you're wondering, it's like, as the trade deadline rolls near, where the buyers are going to be in this league. It may not be a lot.
And that brings an interesting point, too, because now the official trade deadline is April 12th. But Canadian teams who make trades on that day will, at best, won't get their players until the 26th, because coming into Canada, they have the mandatory 2-week quarantine period. Yeah. So does that mean that Canadian teams start buying south of the border now so that those players are ready come playoff time?
You'd think so. It has to be like soon, right? The Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, Line A trade that happened like a month ago now, or a couple months ago. It seemed like it was like super early on, but it's kind of one of those things where like Shovel Dayoff was kind of probably figured that out, whereas other teams I don't know if they are. And again, unless you're moving interdivision, which I just don't see happening unless a big discrepancy happens in the next like week or two.
Just to wrap up the Milan Lucic thing, he was there. Daryl Sutter was there. They lost in the first round on 2015-2016, which was the year that they were both there. But yes, I'm excited for the trade deadline, and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think Canadian teams really have a strategy in place yet. So It's really going to be probably the most boring trade deadline we'll ever see. But leading up to it, I think there will be a few trades to be had.
Cool. Nice. And if we move up to the the hottest team in Canada, the Vancouver Canucks. This last week they went 4-0-1. They're not going to go and leave a game without a point. They got 15 goals for, 12 against, and I think they didn't have a game that finished in regulation all week. As I was kind of looking over, they went to at least overtime 3, maybe 4 games.
Yeah, they've been on an overtime tear, 4 in a row, 2 or 3 wins, 1 loss.
Yeah. I mean, for Bettor Advice, I'm like thankful, I guess, that we didn't record earlier in the week and we're recording on Sunday, because like I feel like you probably would have raked with those guys. So
it would have been just like, I've been pulling the trigger on so many North Division overtimes, and like it has been okay sometimes, and this obviously was the week to do it with the Canucks.
Yeah.
I only got in on 2 of them. I think I was on at the start of the week against the Sens, and I had them on Friday night against the Canadians. But last night I thought Price was, I was all in on Price. I was like, yeah, no, Canadians are the team to beat here, saving Price. But Price let in a couple soft ones. What was it? 2, like I want to say 30 seconds apart, beginning of the third. I don't know if you saw the game or not, but it was just like one of those painful moments. They gave up the lead. I think Gallagher tied it later in the third, and lo and behold, they won in a shootout.
Well, shit. But a little bit better. I mean, if you listen to sports, we're talking about Thatcher Demko for a Vezina contender or a candidate right now. So, I mean, I think early on in the season we kind of talked about that this kid does have the spark if they gave it to him. They kept kind of relying too much on Holtby. And as we're seeing a little bit of parity kind of balance out, they're hopefully trending a little bit in the right direction, and they should be competing for a playoff spot rather than kind of just sitting in the basement. So,
should we dedicate any time to talking about how bad Braden Holtby is, or should we just move on?
Yeah, let's just move on. To Montreal. Speaking of Montreal in overtime, how'd they do this week? They were 1-2, 13 goals for, 14 goals against, so kind of steady Eddie. As they slowly slip down the standings, they're just playing like, fuck it, we'll just play 500 hockey. Who cares?
Yeah. And this is honestly the Julian effect. Like, Julian got the most out of the least with these guys, and this new clown. And just to, like, Friday night against the Canucks, they score in the last minute anyways, or, like, I'm pretty sure it was in the last minute. And then they start overtime with Corey Perry and somebody else, like, on 3-on-3? Like, what the fuck is Corey Perry doing on the ice? Dominic Ducharme is, like, I don't know how he has this job. Like, this must be a nude pictures type scenario, but, like, to see how he coaches this team, just like, oh, man, I can't handle it. The Habs deserve so much better than Dominic Ducharme.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, on update for our Nucks versus Habs pool, I'm up by 2 still, so good job, me. Good job.
I looked last night, I was up 1, but then I looked at the box scores, and your Canucks outscored my Canadians by a decent margin. I think it was like 8-5 or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like that John Tavares pick, and I had like Who do I have? McKinnon? Oh, it's only 4-point difference. All right, I thought that would have been greater. All right, well, there you go. There's the updated standing. So, go Canucks. Go Canucks. Go.
I would just like to preface this that my picks were based on Claude Julien coaching. So, fuck you, Mick.
I see. So, it's one of those, like, expected goalies versus, like, confirmed goalie gambling Scheisler situations. We're just going to avoid that pool. All right. Cool. Moving on to the top of the division. I was going somewhere. Bronze medal. There we go. Bronze medal. We got the Winnipeg Jets. They look either like the best team in the league or average. Never really bad, though. So that's exciting. They were 2-3 this week. 14 goals for 13 goals against. So kind of pretty even.
Were you watching the game last night against the Oilers?
No, I pieced out after the Leafs game. I kind of watched 10 to that and then thought, I don't need more excitement than this.
So they had mentioned on a few occasions, actually, the Jets had not yet lost consecutive games in regulation on the road. But if you look at the Jets' advanced metrics, like, it is a miracle that these guys have won back-to-back games on the road. So I don't know. And, like, I know that it's just a matter of time. Like, I don't know if we're balancing out from last year or if they're borrowing from the future, but they are going to adjust. And it's not going to be good. And like I said, we've seen it year in, year out. Teams overachieve for whatever reason, but there is a correction phase. I don't know, like I said, if it's going to come this season or, like I said, they're borrowing from next year's stats, but the Jets are in for some hard times.
Yeah, and they'd be a team I would like to see the Jets, like we were kind of talking about the trade deadline earlier, making a big move, because they have to do it at some point, right? And like make that kind of that bigger splash to get something, because I feel like we're seeing the best goalie in the NHL with Hellebuck, right? Like, and that's the way I'm kind of like making this make sense in my head is we're seeing like the elite tier. He's the clear number one. Everyone else is below him, and that's how they're kind of getting these wins. And then they do have enough just depth at forward to kind of like balance out kind of the deficiencies that they're having on the defensive end, and like when the goalie doesn't step up. So it would be nice to see them kind of bring in like a big impact defenseman, kind of shore up that blue and like give them those positive trends so that we don't see those regressions, right? But I mean, I feel like we've been kind of having the same conversation now for like 3 or 4 years.
You know what? It has been a while.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed last night is just like these announcers love tugging off Dylan DeMello. Like, oh, Dylan DeMello's the fucking best. Like, imagine if they had like a real, like a good defenseman in Winnipeg. It would just make the difference. But
yeah. No, it's mind-numbing. But I think we still both had them in the playoffs. Like, we both had them at, like, 4, if we look back at kind of our, like, preseason power ranking. So, kind of where we expected them, right?
Yeah, I think I had them in Montreal battling it out for 4 or 5. And they are exactly where we would expect them to be. But they're getting there in a way that I didn't think they would get there.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, how about on to the Edmonton Oilers. They're making a push for the top. They had a little bit of a fall from grace, but I think they're tied. If we look right there in the points total here, they both 42. They share that same top number with the Leafs. They went 3-2 this week. 15 goals for, 9 goals against. So a little bit of defensive hockey maybe from the Oilers.
I wouldn't defensive efficiency isn't their strength. I would say that. But Mike Smith, man, like this guy turns 39 tomorrow. Another tidbit I picked up on the broadcast last night. 39, and like he's still playing like a young man, and he plays with the intensity that I haven't seen since Dwayne Rollerson. And for everybody who's a true Oilers fan, they know that Dwayne Rollerson was the guy who led us to the promised land. It was the Stanley Cup Finals 2006 before Marc-Andre Bergeron goddamn took out his knees. But it's that intensity, and I think that kind of brings up the Oilers, especially a young team. Like, they're so young on the back end. When you see a guy like that get all fired up, like you want to play better for him. Like, you want to be a guy who doesn't let Mike Smith down. And I think he's kind of this little X factor that might carry the Oilers further than they deserve to go in the playoffs.
Sweet. Yeah, I mean, it kind of comes down to that. Like, who's the best player in hockey? Connor McDavid. He's like top tier. He's the elite. We're seeing that on the score sheet, right? Where their other deficiencies are. Connor just kind of does it. Goals for. He has half. Well, I guess it's not just goals, right? Like, he has 60 points. So, I mean, they've got 116 goals for. How many of those are from McDavid? 50%? No, that's impossible. 25%? That's pretty good. That's a pretty good scoring pace, right? Like 30 goals on the season or whatever he's got. So,
and I think that's been kind of the one thing that's brought them down is a reliance on McDavid. But we are starting to see more balanced scoring from the Oilers. What they did this week was they got Dry and McDavid back on the same line, and I think that's kind of why you're seeing those
numbers come up,
goals for go up.
Yeah,
and even last night, like, it was just. When you make Puljujärvi look like a good hockey player, and like Puljujärvi was playing with a firecracker up his ass or something last night, but he looked great skating on the line with McDavid and Draisaitl, and I think that you could probably put like 75% of forwards on that line with those two, and they would look they would look just as good as P2J looked last night. So my concern obviously is like with that reliance, like by not separating them, you're kind of increasing the reliance on McDavid and Draisaitl, and that is like if we put them against Toronto, where Toronto just seems to have their number, does that basically negate all of Edmonton's offense? Are we now like hoping that Jujhar Khaira or Zach Kassian scores 2 or 3 goals in a game to help beat the Maple Leafs? I don't know what their strategy is once we get to that point, but I guess I do have some concerns about how they're deploying them.
Yeah, fair enough. And speaking of the Toronto Maple Leafs, they went 1-3 this week. 10 goals for, 13 goals against. We just kind of saw them at the end of the tailspin. I don't know if they pulled out of it a little bit the last couple games against like the Senators last week. It was close right at the end. They kind of kept it close. They played the Flames. Just had some bad goaltending there. And then obviously a little bit of better goaltending yesterday, and they got a win. So I don't know if we saw them kind of dip out of the nosedive and we're going to see a little bit better hockey, or they're just going to kind of, I don't know, do this the rest of the way, whatever this is.
No, I think it was definitely a correction phase they were in there, because what was it? It was like 12 straight games where they had outplayed their opponents. Like, it was just like unsustainably high. And then you kind of 1-3 obviously this week. They were in tough against the Flames, but I think they blew a third period lead against them in the first night. Obviously made them pay for it last night. But Soup, like, what more can we say about Soup? That guy, again, maybe he's the X factor that the Leafs need to get over their playoff hump. But he just seems like such a likable guy. Even his post-game interviews, you're like, man, I hope Jack Campbell goes home to his like mansion with his 6 wives, has like all his expensive scotches waiting for him. Like, I hope Jack Campbell has all the best things in his life.
Nice. I like when you say nice things to me. Yeah, only time will tell. It's kind of like I said, it was nice not having like an emotional week, draining, where I'm watching the Leafs lose a couple games to the Senators and the Canucks, and I'm just like emotionally defeated. So I did appreciate that they had a little bit of a quieter week, and I think they have a quiet week. Like, they don't play again now till Thursday against the Senators or something like that they were saying last night. So
yeah, they get Sens on Thursday, then the Oilers for 2 or 3, 2, and then. Looks like they're heading out west again, doing a quick trip through Winnipeg and Calgary into the next few weeks here.
Which is very weird, because like their schedule looks like they've got, their 16, 18 games at home. I guess that makes 14 games on the road, so there's a little bit of discrepancy there. So just to balance that out. So that is kind of wraps up our headlines. Stay tuned next week to find out if the Leafs are still on top, like they have been for most of the week, or maybe the Oilers can take them over. Will Ottawa still be in the basement? It's like a Batman thing. I don't know why I was doing that.
Man, I can't remember. I was going to use the same bat time. Maybe I can't remember. It was sometimes we're just on the wave, too big of the same wavelength.
Yep. Same wavelength. A little My Dirty Fantasy. From a couple weeks ago as a holdover. I guess not from a couple weeks. Last week, I was pretty darn close. Like, my pool, I think I was 4 points away from kind of being in the top half and cashing in. And I took the Blues goalie who ended up losing, so got like 2 points or something like that. So that's pretty good. Like I was 4 points away from cashing in, and my goalie did nothing. Versus the top 5 teams in the league had a Vasilevsky or something, so 30 points from their goalie. So overall, I think that was pretty good advice. I kind of amalgamated our like 2 teams together. Good job, us.
Yeah, I'm still struggling with this. Yeah, I do have the good pieces, but for some reason I just attach them to just the absolute worst. Like last night, I think I had, I had Kincaid, so I knew I was feeling good about the Rangers just because, like I mentioned earlier, the Capitals are going to tailspin here. So I had Kincaid, and I think he was 0.03% owned. Like obviously it's Keith Kincaid, and he ended up putting 30 plus points. Put him with a couple Islanders, McDavid. But then I also tied in Tkachuk, who had 1.6 points. Who was my other undoing? I can't remember off the top of my head. So just like finding the production from top to bottom is the piece that I think is keeping me out of at least some money. So I'm trying to tweak things a little bit to see if I can figure it out and be a little bit more consistent here with outcomes.
Cool, yo. So a little different because we are doing it on a Sunday morning rather than a Friday night, Saturday morning. So we don't have the full spread of games. What should we come up with for today? For myself, I went with, should be an easy one. Assuming, unless I read that wrong, if Fleury is starting against the Kings, I'm thinking Fleury's winning against the Kings. So I'm thinking that's an easy goalie pick right there. Going up top bottom there, Barkov and Huberdeau stack at 74 and 7,500 respectively is not bad. I threw in a Mark Stone because somebody's going to score for the Kings today. Might as well take their big gun. And then I just kind of did like a patchwork. I got Cody Glass, as you see, as my second center. Just kind of throwing darts at the wall on that one. Maybe he taps one in late. Matthias Ekholm on defense against the Stars. Ryan Johansson. Oh, sorry, and Keith Yandel was my other defenseman there, $4,200. And then Ryan Johansson plays top line for the Predators against the Stars. Maybe he scores there, as well as I've got the other top center with Joe Pavelski in my other utility spot. And that's kind of how I threw together my lineup for today.
Yeah, it kind of bothers me. I had most of the same guys as you, but thankfully I tweaked my roster a little bit. I had Ryan Johansson, but he's just struggled a little bit. Yeah. Like, he's obviously a low-cost option. There's not, like, if we're playing the main slate, there's only 3 games to choose from. So I talked myself out of it anyways. I ended up going in different directions. So starting up top, I went with Tyler Johnson. I know that Tyler Johnson doesn't get the big minutes against, he's a third-line player, but he does see power play time. And when Tyler Johnson goes off, I picture him going off for like 3+ points. Like, I don't know why. So I have Johnson, just thinking like maybe he'll get some favorable matchups against the Panthers. I also think that Alexander Barkov presents with a whole bunch of upside. Obviously, shooting on Curtis McElhinney is the biggest thing. But again, he's been the best, if not one of the best forwards for the Panthers this year. So Barkov's my other centerman. Adrian Kempe, he's a guy, not that he's all or nothing, but he has been consistent with production this year, and he gets power play time. I could see him working his way into a power play goal or 2 today, but he's also effective at 5-on-5. He plays big minutes, so Adrian Kempe paired him with Patrick Hornqvist on the wing. Another guy obviously shooting on Curtis McElhinney. If you can tell, I have a theme I'm going with. I don't like Curtis McElhinney. And, okay, so I just also have to say, how the fuck is Curtis McElhinney the highest priced goalie on the DFS slate? It's Curtis McElhinney. Like, oh, God. Anyways, moving on. Defenseman, Mikhail Sergachev. So I know that obviously I think Florida does some damage today. But I also think that Mikhail Sergachev is going to try and get in front of a few shots because you don't want Curtis McElhinney to see all the rubbers. So I think they're going to get to the point where he's just going to start hurling himself in front of the puck. So Mikhail Sergachev. I went with Keith Yandel too, like you. A lot of upside, power play guy. Obviously, like the biggest piece on their back end. Bringing me to my utility, so I underspent up front so I could overspend on utility. I also went with Mark Stone, same premise as you, that those Golden Knights goals are going to have to come from somewhere. And Anze Kopitar, who's been low-key one of the best centers in the league this year, again, like he plays that two-way game, power play time. I think that he presents with upside. This is where I went off the rails, though, my goaltender pick. As soon as I saw Curtis McElhinney, 8,600, I was like, fuck this. I'm going the cheapest goalie I can possibly find. And I ended up finding Pecorine at a discount. I'm not entirely sure if it's him who's starting. I know that they went with Saros yesterday, so it's going to be either Rene or that Kakakuso guy.
Yep.
I'm hoping it's Rene. He was only $6,800, but I'll keep a close eye on that because if it's not Rene, I got $400 left. I'm assuming that's going to be enough to get me Kakakuso, but Dallas hasn't been doing great offensively. They're on the second night of back-to-back. I think this is the third game in 4 nights, and they traveled last night. So I am thinking that it's a good spot for the Nashville Predators to maybe catch the Dallas Stars a little bit flat. And that was kind of why I wanted a Predator in my lineup. I just didn't have it in me to go with Ryan Johansson.
Fair enough. Nice. All right. So it sounds like we're all on the same. And again, kind of with the smaller slate, you end up kind of with similar opinions on some things. So we'll see how that works for us. Can't be that much variance, right? Like just based on what you said, based on what my picks are. If like you're looking at the screen, I'd be interested. I'm always interested. Like I do kind of a $2, 5 or 10 person 50-50 contests, and then just kind of keeping track of like what do the winner teams look like versus what do the losers teams look like, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, well, count me in.
All right. Cool. Yo, what screen do we want? We can throw standings up for the last one. Last little bit, Bettor Advice. Whew. Can I find like the score somewhere? I see the Penguins game's already started, so there goes my big strategy of picking the Penguins. I wasn't going to pick the Penguins.
Well, yeah, I don't know what's going on in Jersey, but things aren't really going their way either.
Nope.
But,
no, not at all. They're one of those ones, too, like on the slide, at some point, something's got to give. They did beat the Buffalo Sabres earlier this week. And then what night was it? There was one of the nights I went and looked, and it was the first night of the Sabres-Bruins. And I'm at this point now where like the Buffalo Sabres are going to win a hockey game. It's just a matter of kind of picking your moment, and I want to have those like +2 something odds when they do hit. Well, they didn't even post it because I think it's so one-sided. Like they just figured that the Bruins are such a foregone conclusion. They didn't even post the odds for that game. So
they just had enough, hey?
I think so. Like at least the book I was using, and I was like, oh, interesting. So we kind of have 3 games for today to pick through. I wonder if our odds are a little different, or if our picks are going to be the same. For myself, I'm going to, I think I'm down about $200. So we're betting $100 a week. I've lost basically 2 weeks, have had no return. If we looked at the stats, it doesn't seem as discrepant as that, but it's just one of those things on a downhill trend. So I'm going to fix that today. I'm going to do mix in honor of the Tragically Hip and a hockey card that I'm currently seeking out on eBay right now. I'm going to do mix 3 pistol pick of the week. I'm going to take 3 over-unders, parlay them together. I'm going to win back all my money right here, people. Are you ready for this? So a 3-team over-under parlay. We're going to take the Nashville Predators, Dallas Stars, under 5.5 goals. We're going to take the Vegas Knights and LA Kings under 5.5. And I like the Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightnings over 6. $50 on that bad boy at plus 514 is going to get me out of the hole, and we're going to see a little green on the spreadsheet next week.
I'm excited. What are you doing with the other $50?
I think I'm going to do another parlay, but I was going to queue that up for the odds until I could kind of delete this ticket. So.
All right, well, that leads me to my 3 picks. I wish I had a cool catchphrase to use, but I don't. Lo and behold, you get Grant's fucking grubby old, let's hope some of these hit picks. I had a terrible week last week, went 0-4, second time this season. Just trying to avoid those. I was positive money until that. Going to climb myself out of the hole again. I think I'm down $40-ish on the season now, so smaller slate. I mentioned this years ago, maybe last year even. I think I do better when there's less hockey and you can kind of focus your attention on breaking down games a little bit more closely. First of which, we're starting at the top of the board. That is the 2 o'clock game with the Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning. Second night of back-to-back for the Bolts, and Panthers coming in fresh. Backup goalie, for those of you who pay attention to me and like losing money with me, this is my favorite spot to back a shootout, or not shootout, overtime bet. So I'm going Tampa Bay, Florida, overtime, plus 320. I was going to just like do something stupid and bet it all on that, but I thought I'd mix it up. So I'm just going with the typical $20. Moving down, we're looking at the 6:15 game, Vegas Golden Knights versus Los Angeles Kings. Vegas is a decent, Vegas is one of the best teams in the league. The Kings are low-key making noise this year, and they are doing it with an efficient offense. I think this game makes its way over the total. Maybe it takes an empty netter. I'm not sure on the side. I'm not convinced on either way, but over 5.5, which is, I guess, opposite of what Mick likes. Minus 115. I'm doing that for $30. And we're wrapping everything up with the 8:45 game, Nashville Predators versus Dallas Stars. Dallas just can't figure it out. Like, when you lose to Detroit and it's not even your worst loss on the last couple weeks, I would say you got some soul searching to do. Yeah. Nashville has won 2 in a row, I think. 2 of their last 3, maybe. Something like that. The Preds are trending in the right direction, and rightfully so. Like, you can only be so bad with the talent they have. I think that they are way overpriced. So I'm doing $30 I'm doing $50 on Nashville plus 162.
Sweet.
Again, maybe this one needs overtime, but I'm expecting Nashville to come out on top.
Sweet. All right. Well, you were wondering what I was going to do with my other $50. I'm going to do a 2-team parlay. I'm going to take the alternate puck line of the Florida game at plus 1.5 at minus 190, and the Nashville Predators at plus 150 on my sports book. So that parlay together is plus 282. So that's Florida plus 1.5 and the Predators to win. So at $50.
All right. Well, hopefully greener pastures await our bank accounts. It's kind of, not that we're completely opposite on some of these, but we are, hopefully, well, this could either go one way. It could be the over that really just screws us for whatever reason. If, for example, no, we don't have to talk about hypotheticals.
Yeah, no,
hopefully,
it does. Yeah.
I'm confident we'll have the money to go pay for our own lap dances at the end of all this.
Pew, pew, pew. I think so. It should be good. So with that, kind of wraps up all those things. Talked a little bit about sports. Yeah, and like Grant was saying, kind of off the top, if you were a long-time listener of the podcast, we used to do a wrap-up. There's a lot of cool stuff going on right now. The NBA kind of seems like they're at the same point here, but yeah, between baseball season picking up, football is always entertaining. Like, you could really run a year-long football podcast or just talk about it, right? Like, for those shows, they just always seem to have, like, content. Like, free agency came out this week, and there was always, like, a big signing every day. And I believe that the NHL or the NFL controls the release of information, and they, like, stagger it so they can stay in the news cycle. Because it's very coincidental, like, how all these little things play out, so...
Yeah, I would say there's definitely some strategy behind that. If you want to talk NFL signings, because it has been a busy week, have you seen what the Broncos have done with their secondary? Mm-hmm. They went out and signed Ronald Darby. I think it was on the opening day of free agency. Then they signed Justin Simmons, who's basically, he wasn't an all-pro, but he's almost there, safety. And then they, I guess, solidified all that with, who was the other cornerback they signed? Oh, it's going to bother me. But they basically, like, their secondary looks almost unbeatable now. Oh, it's Kyle Fuller from the Bears. And now, like, you get Von Miller healthy back again next year. They picked up his option. So between these 4 players, I think they've got something like $40 million just committed to these players next season. And that's 4 defensive players. So, like, if this strategy doesn't work, and I think what they're trying to do is kind of, recapture the glory of the Peyton Manning Super Bowl, because that was a defensive Super Bowl. Yes. Von Miller ended up winning Super Bowl MVP. Peyton Manning just didn't have to throw an interception, like throw this 5-yard pass and we'll eventually get there type mentality. But if it doesn't work, like, they are going to look like big assholes next year, especially when they have to get past not only the Chiefs, but the Chargers are looking good. Yep. And even the Raiders. Like, the Raiders can throw the ball, and you got Derek Carr, who basically just has to throw it in Waller's general direction, and that's going to get you at least 15 yards.
Yeah, I just pulled their depth chart here, and you're like, cool. And then you look at their quarterbacks, and it's Drew Lock, Brett Rippon, and Jeff Driscoll. So might have some work to do there. But yeah, no, like, I mean, I'm not a big Melvin Gordon guy, but like they're wide receivers there. Noah Fant, Cortland Sutton's coming back, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Deshaun Hamilton. Like, those guys seemed like they had some talent there. So I could figure out that quarterback piece. Hey.
I don't know why everybody's so high on Drew Lock. I don't see it myself, especially like, I guess it's interceptions for me. Like, the guy just like, he is such a liability, but I don't know. You do you, Denver.
Yeah, you do you. I guess there's still pieces out there. Maybe there's a trade. Maybe there's someone, a rookie that they can sign and then just keep treading their tires there, you know?
Rookie quarterback after rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
God damn, it's been like 6 over the last 4 years at least.
Yeah. No, it's not good. And they had that wide receiver at one time play a game for them last year. He sucked. It was like 8 yards or 18 yards or something like that. And you're like, oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. Cool. Final Babe of the Week? Is that it? Is that all we got?
I think that's all we got left here.
Yeah, all right.
I am bringing... it's a 2-for-1 special today on the Babe of the Week.
Sweet.
So there are... And you know what? Sometimes I feel bad because I can't be sure that these people are old. Like, I'm assuming that they're of age. I'm assuming they are. But it's a 2-for-1. You get underscore Isa and L underscore. So that is obviously underscore IZA and L ELLE and twins. Now, I couldn't help but think of the Office episode where Jim and Pam get married and Dwight just has to show off the twins to Michael.
Beautiful.
But I feel like this is a step up.
Beautiful creatures they are. They look like, at least they're like barely legal, right? Like, if you were gonna find like them in a porn category, they'd be under barely legal. So that's not bad.
Jesus. But I think they're also, if I've gathered my information correctly, I think they're Danish, and I know that the Danes aged terribly well just because, you know,
it's that clean,
fish
clean living and stuff like that. So
yeah, something like that. So
Sweet.
Isaac and L-R-R, Babes of the Week.
Schwing. Sweet. Awesome. So that's it. So we wrapped it up. A little bit of a later one. Kind of, I guess did we dissect what happened on Saturday night? Well, no, because you watched the one game, I didn't. Leafs. I think you watched the Montreal game. I watched the Leafs game. All right. It works. Sure.
Well, honestly, if somebody sat through the whole 52 minutes and they're now just wondering, like, hey, how come we didn't get more in-depth analysis when we talked about the Saturday night games? Fuck them.
Yeah.
You know what?
You don't get, if you're not going to get analysis, like good analysis going into the games, why would you expect that on the other side? Come on, guys. Like, what is that?
Who are we? Kevin Bieksa's?
No, you can't do that. That guy's a national treasure, so don't you talk about Bieksa. Maybe one day I'll say it. So, yeah. So without that, are we done? I guess. Yes.
I was just going to say, I was hoping you were going to try BX's last name. But yeah, that's it. All I got. Back next week. Probably around the same time-ish.
Something like that? Yeah. BXka. Maybe I'll say that. Party on, Grant.
Party on, Mick. We'll see everybody next week.
Bye.